Hi Stampers, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to do the faux tile technique. If you'll notice in my card, we have horizontal and vertical lines that are scored, and it resembles actual tiles that you might find in your kitchen or your bathroom. So let's get started. For your cardstock pieces, you'll need smoky slate cardstock, cut at 5 inches by 10 inches, scored in the center at 5, and then folded. Calypso coral, 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches, and whisper white at 4 inches by 4 inches. And then you'll need a piece of calypso coral seam binding ribbon that's about 14 inches long. For our ink colors, we will be using Smoky Slate and Coastal Cabana, and you'll need a sponge dauber for the Coastal Cabana ink. So here we go with step 1. We will be using the Simply Scored scoring tool to make our score lines. Put it right in the corner, and we're going to score it every inch. So 1, 2, and 3, and then turn your cardstock and go 1, 2, and 3 again. So this, you'll have 4 by 4 squares when you're done all your scoring. I did forget to mention as I was scoring that I'm using the smaller ball on the end of my scoring tool. This will make the score lines a little bit deeper, and you'll see why when we start our stamping. For today, the stamp set we will be using is the World of Dreams stamp set, and I'm using the branch image right here, and I'll also be using this sentiment a little bit later on. You'll also need a scrap piece of paper, and we're going to be using the Coastal Cabana ink to do our stamping first. So we're going to ink our stamp, and what you're going to do is just stamp the leaves. And don't press too hard, because as you see, the ink does not go into the score lines, and that is what creates your tile look. So I'm just going to keep adding images. And I'm even going to add just little bits and pieces on the outside just to finish the look a little bit. Okay, and that's all I need for that step. Now we're going to take our scrap paper and position it right below the first score line. And you're going to gently tap your sponge dauber into the ink, wipe most of it off, and very lightly go across the score line. And you'll see that you get a shading when you're using your scrap paper as a guide. So I'm going to continue doing all my lines. There's 2. And then 1 more in this direction. And you're also going to turn it so you can do the other side of your score line. So you're going to be doing it twice horizontally and twice vertically. And you'll notice that the score line remains white, so it really stands out and does look like tile when you're done. And again, very, very light pressure. If you watched my previous video that I did on sponging, I explained how a lot of people ink their sponges way too much when they do sponging. As you notice, I ink it very little, take most of it off, and then sponge the ink. So I'm going to keep going. Okay, one more twirl. And as you watch me, you'll notice that it doesn't look like I'm putting a lot of color on here. But when I remove my scrap paper, that's when you really notice the color. Now I'm also going to ink the edges. Again, just rubbing along the edge. And if you hear the sound that I'm making as I'm sponging the edge, that means you're doing a good job, because that's what it should sound like. Okay, so that's what this technique looks like. Pretty simple. And now we're going to layer our card. I'm going to use my bone folder to fold my smoky slate down. Add snail adhesive to my Calypso coral layer. And center it over your card base. And now I'm going to be using stamping dimensionals to layer the stamped portion, just so it makes it pop. And I'm going to do probably about 8 pop dots, just to make sure that there's enough there so there's no warping. And for those of you that don't have fingernails and have a hard time taking the backing off, a little tip is you take your nail and actually push on it, and it actually lifts it up a little bit for you, so you can just peel it right off. But of course I have nails, so very easily done on my end. 3 more. And of course, it doesn't matter which way you go because they're all evenly spaced, 1 inch apart. So that's my card base. And now I'm going to stamp the sentiment on a scrap piece of smoky slate with the smoky slate ink. And I'm going to cut that out with my decorative label punch. And again, I'm going to use stamping dimensionals because I love stamping dimensionals. I go through a lot of these. And I'm going to put this off to the side a little bit. Okay, now we're going to tie our bow. And if you notice on my card, I have a double bow. My husband actually makes these and we sell them online. And I have little notes on mine so I know how long to make my ribbon. And as you notice, I'm using 3 holes, which tells me my ribbon needed to be 14 inches. And I tie it around once, go around again, bring it to the front between the legs, and cross over with the left, bring it towards the back, and then tie my knot. I also make triple and quadruple bows this way. Of course, you need longer ribbon to do that. Now it just slides off, and I pull the loops. I separate the loops, and there's my doubled up bow. I'm going to trim the ends. And another little trick that I use when I glue my bows is I use a glue dot. I just put 1 behind the knot, and I also add a little bit of liquid glue because I noticed that with age that the glue dots do dry and sometimes they come off your card. So I like to add the additional glue, and I just press it down. And that's my card for today. I hope you like this technique. I'll have all the supplies listed at the end of my video. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Thanks for stopping by.